Today, DestroyLonely has 5 million monthly listeners. It's a well-known fact he's a part of Playboi Carti's label Opium, and his music is all over TikTok. But if you told me that when I first heard his music, honestly, I believe he had 5 million monthly listeners, but not the others. TikTok wasn't a thing like that in the underground at the time, and Carti signing him would be crazy. So in this video, I'm gonna go over my experience watching him grow as a fan of his, or his evolution, his influence, and other tidbits of information you might not know about him. So let me explain why Carti signing DestroyLonely and him blowing up would make no sense to me when I first heard his music. I first heard DestroyLonely in very early 2019. There's this producer group called Nilo World who were going crazy in the underground back then. Some of their producers have gone on to get mainstream placements for artists like Uzi, Future, and Carti, but I remember DestroyLonely hopped on some of their beats, and one of them is even produced by Hella Sketchy. The song I remember listening to has been deleted, as with a lot of his older music. But anyways, I remember listening to a couple of those songs, and to be honest, they weren't really good or trash, they were just bad. Most of his music was alright, and up until the middle of 2019, or just 2019, if you hear any of his music before 2019, most of it is trash. I'm not joking, you can look it up. I'm not trying to hate or anything. But I became a fan of his after hearing a song called Which One. I remember seeing it on some guy's story. It was the BTS of the music video being shot. If you're wondering why it's not on his channel, it's because he deleted it. I don't know why. But when I watched the music video, Lonely was completely different from what I'd heard before. He had a pretty cool flow, I guess. The beat was fire, the song was good. And just something interesting, it dropped on June 26, 2020. And he was teasing No Stylist even back then in the SoundCloud description of the song. And this is before he dropped Broken Hearts, so yeah, that album was teased for years, which is kind of crazy to think about. Anyways, after I heard that song, I started listening to his other music, and he had really stepped it up that year, but I still wasn't a huge fan of him. Honestly, I didn't check his music out like I should have. I think I listened to Bane and really liked the song, I don't know why, but I just wasn't compelled to check out any of his other music. And I think this was because I didn't think he was that interesting or something, I don't know. He used to just post really hard fits, his music, and flex money. I think that was like his personality at the time, so I just didn't really care, I guess. Until I heard his album Broken Hearts, and I really liked the sound of that entire album. I actually listened to it so much when it came out that I got sick of it, and only recently have I started listening to some of that stuff again. The entire album, even the deluxe version, has like no misses. The first 3 songs, Pop My Miley Cyrus and Fun, are all really good. Lil Candy Paint is actually in the Fun music video. They used to be friends. Candy Paint was also cool with Ken Carson before he was anything as well. But Broken Hearts had a really unique sound for 2 reasons. One, back then, Lone, he kind of rapped differently. His flow was more simple than it is today, and the way he'd make his voice sound was definitely different. He used to do this thing where he'd make his voice raspy. The way I described it might sound weird, but it sounded mad good. Just listen to any of his old music and you'll know what I'm talking about. My favorite song from that project was Fun. That song is one of his best songs in my opinion. Definitely from that era of DestroyLonely. It's just like a relaxing, cool song. The other reason Broken Hearts was unique was because of the production. The album was mostly produced by Clayco, his main producer now, and Clayco killed the beats on this album. The entire album's sound wouldn't be possible without Clayco's beats. Those beats were entirely different from what was out at the time, and he was definitely inspired by producers like Mexico Dro and other plug producers, as well as producers from Atlanta, and combining those influences resulted in the sound you can hear on the album. After I listened to that album, I got really into his older music, and before I get into the music of his that was really good, I'm gonna get into the music that wasn't great. Dark Horse. This album is filled with misses, except one song, VVS Valentine, and that song is hard as hell. It's actually one of my early favorites of his, like a couple of years ago. It's him rapping on a Pure Born inspired beat, and there's even a music video, but the rest of the tape is pretty bad. And that was an issue with DestroyLonely early on. His music was just inconsistent, and honestly that's probably why I didn't like his stuff when I first heard it, because the songs I listened to weren't good, even though some of these really good songs were out there when I was introduced to him. He had this other project called Sometimes You Lose. I like Alone, but once again the rest of the EP was just alright. But just like anything, after you put in a certain number of reps, hours, whatever, however you want to measure it, consistently, you'll get good, right? And that's pretty much what happened with his music. After this, he dropped Bane, which did become his most popular song pretty soon after his release. That song was so fire. Sometimes they're just beats that are so good they can stand by themselves, and this was one of those beats, but usually it's hard to make a good song on them. Alone was able to do that with Bane. I heard someone on Twitter say it was manifestation music, which is like, I don't know. I guess the lyrics where he talks about the grind and basically says screw his teachers, he doesn't care about a grade, or what they're referring to. Apparently now he hates the song because of TikTok and having to perform it everywhere and how it ruined the song. I don't really care, I still like it. After that, he dropped one of my favorite projects by him to this day, Forever I Love You. And I don't know what he was on when he made this. Pretty much every song except 2 of them are hits. Mud, Cutie, Molly World, Usual, they're all amazing. If you listen to Molly World, his voice sounds crazy on the songs. Songs like Usual, Mud, and Cutie all have really simple but catchy flows. Something that I really liked in his older music, and that's kind of missing in his newer stuff. Between that and his next project, he dropped a ton of singles. My favorite were Red Dead and Number 9. Red Dead was kind of him finding a new flow and had a really cool beat. He actually performed Red Dead at a house party. I think that was his first time he ever performed. And all those singles led up to his next project, Underworld, which was another solid tape he didn't miss. Literally, from here all the way to his album Broken Hearts, he didn't miss. Not a single song was mid, it was pretty crazy. He dropped Please Don't Touch This and another EP, Lord, which is where I first got into him, like I said before. And as you can see from the description in Vamp, he was still teasing No Stylist. During this time, he was also hopping on other host pages on SoundCloud, like his best friend Texaco Cams and High Tech Steph. Songs like Real, Molly Astronaut, Lightspeed were some of my favorites, but there were many more. He dropped some hosted tapes as well. After that, he dropped Broken Hearts, which is when he really started to get attention from what I saw. Around this time, he switched to sound again. I feel like his music pre-Broken Hearts sounds pretty different from after it. His voice got more refined and he started rapping on a bit more mainstream beats in my opinion. I'm not talking about No Stylist. A couple months after Broken Hearts dropped, one of Cardi's friends hit Lone Up and said Cardi liked his music. At first, I genuinely have no clue how anyone knew he was signed to Opium because no one said anything about it, at least I think. But people just knew, apparently, I don't know. And in the coming months, he became pretty popular. I think I saw Ian Connor tweeting about him. So in a year, he went from selling methods on a story to being signed to Cardi, which is pretty crazy. After that, he took a really long break before dropping No Stylist. Everyone was asking for the album to the point where he was getting annoyed. I mean, he was promoting it for years, but at the same time, he was dropping music, so I don't really know what to say. And then in August of 2022, he finally dropped it. To be honest, the wait was mad long. It was kind of underwhelming at first. It wasn't an insane project or anything, but it was pretty good, and there are a bunch of good songs. The song No Stylist blew up on TikTok, and overall, the album did really well. Finally, he started teasing this new album with snippets on Tumblr. Yeah, very aesthetic, I know. But some of them were hard. One of them was If Looks Could Kill, and that song was so good, the snippet started blowing up on TikTok itself. So he dropped the song. And normally I don't care when a song blows up on TikTok, but the amount of fill in the blank is so DestroyLonely, or DestroyLonely fans be like TikToks I've seen, and I don't even use the app, is crazy. And it definitely made his fan base really corny. Recently, I haven't really been feeling his snippets as much, and I'm not gonna lie, I prefer some of his older music over his newer music. If Looks Could Kill was a forgettable album with some good songs, because even though it had a specific sound, it was too long and got really redundant at times, and even seemed like he was trying to go for a certain aesthetic over actually putting out good music. As far as DestroyLonely's influence in the underground, without saying anything, everyone knows he was pretty influential. I saw someone on Twitter say DestroyLonely so hard even his clones blow up, which is kind of funny. But that kind of sums it up. There was a time where I remember Slum Sixes was really inspired by Lone, and the beats he was hopping on were kind of similar. And there are a bunch of other rappers that also were really influenced by him. For example, during 2021, a lot of underground rappers that were bigger than him, like Hannah, started hopping on his type beats and were definitely inspired by him. I wouldn't say they're jacking his style though, there's just a clear influence. Lone also paved the way for a bunch of newer rappers that are coming up right now, like Rolling Thrax, Southside Silhouette, Lifeless Garments / Vamp Leak, and of course, Dom Corleo. Whether you want to call them clones or not is up to you. Personally, I don't think so, but they're all pretty DestroyLonely inspired because their sound, all the way to the way they dressed, is kinda like DestroyLonely. You can't really debate that. So I don't know what his new music is gonna sound like. He's played a couple of snippets, they were just alright. He's gonna drop this tape called Opium Twins with Ken Carson, and some of the snippets are really good, so that's definitely gonna be good. But that's it for this video. Let's hope our fashion demon / top floor boss drops something hard. Have a nice day. See you next time.